Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR coverage on Proline TV as we preview the 2026 Daytona 500. And of course, that means we welcome back CJ Radune from RotoWire.com. CJ, only a couple weeks away, week after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I thought we'd be talking about the Clash by now, but the weather apparently had other issues. So we'll be talking solely about the Daytona 500 before any car hits any track at any point in 2026, apparently.
Yeah, what does that tell you about the Daytona 500? That tells you practice and qualifying, all that stuff just
doesn't matter.
No, doesn't matter. And we're going to go into why that doesn't matter with all of our trends. We're going to give our picks, of course. We will go through the odds, and that's what we're going to do each week here, every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. If we switch, we would only be switching to Wednesdays, but right now we're on every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Okay, so let me go ahead and pop up the odds. And I'm sure these odds have been pretty, I don't think they've changed a whole lot over the last few weeks since they've posted them. And, we want to remind you, too, about the contest that we told you about last week with DraftKings. So we guess that there's a possibility. The reason why we haven't been able to create the contest yet is because the Clash has not happened. So they have the Clash now all set. So maybe when the Clash is over tomorrow, if that's the case, we'll go in, we'll put the contest together. And as long as we put it all together between now and next week's show, then on next week's show, we're going to go over the contest with you again. We're going to tell you exactly where to find the contest. And anybody that wants to join can join, of course. It'll be up to you guys. We're just going to put a thought on what kind of pricing we want to put in. It could be $1, could be $5. It won't be more than that. And of course, the more we put in, the more money everybody can make. So, and that's what we're going to do every week on our NASCAR coverage. It'll be part of our programming. Okay, but we don't have that today. We're just going to go into the 500. We will update, though, our picks and the fantasy contest next week when we preview the season. That's going to be the center attraction of our show next week. We're going to go over our predictions for the playoffs and the championship and all that. But we figured let's get a head start on our Daytona 500 coverage a week in advance, and that's what we're doing here. So let's pop up the odds. Who do you think is the favorite of the 500? Do you think there's a one driver favorite, CJ, or multiple?
I'm going to go with multiple, but I will say I bet you they're all the same manufacturer.
Okay.
They might even be the same team.
So you're going to go with the 3 Penske drivers at like 10-1 or something?
At least 2 of the Penske drivers, Logano and Blaney, I'm going to say are probably co-favorites in the Penske Fords.
All right.
Yeah, probably 10-1. 9. Byron, well, win 3 in a row? I don't think so. There's
there's Logano. So there are your favorites right now: Blaney, Byron, Logano, and interesting enough, it's interesting. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that this has actually occurred last year. I don't know why it did, but Ryan Blaney actually, when we did the show for the August race, the Coke race, he went off at 14-1 to win the race. So we took advantage of that. And, of course, Blaney, very fortunate because they had that late incident, and that kind of opened up the door. Ryan Blaney came out charging on the outside with Cole Custer pushing him, and he didn't have a whole lot of competition because Logano involved in another wreck. That's been his story lately. Now, this was the Coke race. But for the 500, as you mentioned, CJ, it was William Byron once again getting it done. And when you take a look at these 3 drivers, I think it's, look, Blaney's the favorite because he should be. And remember, we talk about drivers, and in these super speedway races, they have to have luck. And sometimes when they're on a stretch where they have bad luck, you just got to stay away from them until their luck changes. Well, that was, it really worked out perfectly for Blaney based on what we've said about this. You can call it a theory. You can call it, that's just our handicapping style. But Blaney had a 3-race run of wrecking. So wreck. So stood away from him, waited for him to get off that. And what did he do? He finished 7th in the Daytona 500. Okay. Now he's off of it. Now it's time to bet him in the Coke race, and he wins. That's what we're looking at here. So with Logano, unfortunately, he's also in a bad rut. But and even though he didn't wreck and was out in his last race, it was another bad race because he was involved in a wreck. So he's had a 31.2 average in his last 4 races. But just to show you how bad luck he's had, he's led 27 or more laps in all 4 races. So it's just bad luck he's going through. And that's the thing you have to deal with. You're going to want to bet on Logano and hope that the luck just goes from bad to win. It's a little extreme, keeping in mind, surprisingly, Logano has just 1 win in Daytona, just 1. So again, at 10-1 with all that bad luck, I don't think I'm going to go down that road, but he's definitely an option and a good option. And Byron's the other one with the 3 wins, the back-to-back 500 wins, keeping in mind he has DNF'd in 50% of his career races at Daytona, has only had 115 laps led, and only led 23 laps in his last 8 races. And he's got 2 Daytona 500 wins during that span. So you talk about one driver, Logano, who's had no luck lately, and William Byron, who's had all the luck lately. And that's the difference, which is why I guess if I'd have to decide between Byron and Logano, I'd probably just keep going with Byron at this point. Not necessarily to win, but to finish ahead of Logano. But I Blaney's still the call out of these 3 in my mind.
Blaney is definitely the deserved favorite. I do like the idea of Byron if you're going to go on a head-to-head, Byron versus Logano, because like you said, Logano, with his luck, it just hasn't been there. He's had lots of crashes, been very fast and led a lot of laps. So for winning, that is important. But to win at Daytona, you have to get all the way to the end. That's been a problem for Logano, as you talked about. But there are a couple of things that I always look for at Daytona, and it's the ability to lead laps, and it's the ability to hook up with another car and move through the field. And without a doubt, the best at that, whether it's Daytona or Talladega for the past couple of seasons, is actually Ford, and specifically the Team Penske Ford. So Blaney and Logano have been at the front of races at Daytona and Talladega pretty much ubiquitously over the past several seasons. So it does make sense to go with either of those guys for the win. Blaney certainly the favorite. Logano did get to the finish. He led 27 laps, but like you said, it wasn't a top 5 or top 10 finish. He finished 27th, I think, in that fall race. Byron, I can't go with him for the win, only because he'd have to win 3 Daytona 500s in a row. I don't know if that's ever even happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I find it hard to believe that it would change and happen for him this year. And like you said, I think last year's win was definitely fortuitous and good fortune for him. Perhaps they step it up this year, but he's going to have a lot of competition to do so. So out of these 3, honestly, I'd probably go with Blaney deserves to be the favorite, but just by a nose over Logano.
And just to take a look at some of those key trends, in the last 16 races at Daytona, 10 winners have started outside the top 10, including positions of 20th, 21st, 29th, and 31st. And Ryan Blaney ended a streak of 15 consecutive different winners at Daytona. Now, what was also interesting about that is he won from the pole. It was the first time not only that someone has won from the pole since 2015, but it's the first time that someone's won from the first 2 rows since 2015. And it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. who did that that year. And remember, when Blaney was on the pole, though, last year in this race, it wasn't because he qualified there. It's because of rain and the whole ridiculous points system or whatever they come up with the formula to. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, Blaney was able to take advantage of that. So that was that. And as you mentioned, the Fords in the last 11 races, Ford has 6 wins, Chevy has 5 wins, and Toyota has no wins. The last Toyota win at Daytona was Denny Hamlin in the 2020 Daytona 500. So And that's a trend that I definitely think makes sense. I don't know if I'm going to be looking at too many Toyotas, but there are a couple that I wouldn't mind going with as long as the odds are right.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at or think about Toyota because they've been so bad at being able to link up in the draft, and it all had to do with their nose and being able to be stable when they're getting pushed from behind, and they just didn't have that ability like the flat front end of the Fords and the Chevrolets, and Ford's always had it down. They haven't lost any. But it was interesting last year, I think toward the end of the year, we started seeing, and even at Daytona as well, even through the duels, I think we had Bubba Wallace win one of the duels. Toyota looked strong, very fast on a single lap. If they can figure out that drafting, I think they're going to be really tough to beat. So once they figure that out, I think Ford's going to have some strong competition. We'll see how that plays out over the week. But I agree with you. I think there are very few Toyotas that I would look at right now. They'd be specific drivers, and it would only be if the odds are looking in the right range.
Yeah, because I do think that there are some solid Toyota options, and we're going to get into that. And I think the good thing about some of these options are the odds, is that I'm willing to roll the dice on some of the drivers that have good odds. But Denny Hamlin, who we are going to get to right now, I don't think so. So
Agreed.
because he's just too low at 11-1. And then you got Larson and Kyle Busch at 14-1. And like, for instance, look, Denny Hamlin last year in the Coke race was 22-1. So I don't know what he's doing at 11-1. The only thing I can think is he has 3 500 wins. And, he almost won the championship, and Denny Hamlin's a big name. So he should be one of these types of favorites. But his history is telling us in the next gen, especially for Denny Hamlin, it's not working out. He's got a 26.4 average in the next gen races with a best of 17th. So last year he was 24th and 25th in both races. So not at 11-1. I just can't do it. Not on the bad run he's having right now with next gen, Toyota, whatever way you want to slice it. It not at 11-1, not for me. And then we got this Kyle Larson nonsense again at 12-1. We're trying to give him some flowers last year. He has gotten better. But look, come on. The guy has 6 top 5 no wins in 51 super speedway races, Talladega, Daytona, and Atlanta. And you're making him like one of the top drivers this week at 12-1. It's just ridiculous. Never had a top 5 in his history at Daytona. And you're giving him 12-1 odds. That's just not right. Kyle Busch is another one. I mean, he shouldn't even be 14-1. That's a little bit better, but Kyle's got 1 win in 41 races at Daytona. And last year he was 34th and 33rd. So yeah, this is just right now, these 3 drivers right here, it's all name recognition. That is all it is.
I would pass over all 3 of them. Totally agree. I think Hamlin's getting it because he was so close to the championship. He's a 3-time winner. But to your point about the next gen, he hasn't finished even inside the top 15 at Daytona since the last race at the track in the old generation of car. So just 17th being his best, as you said, 3 crashes in that time. So Denny Hamlin just not there for me. Kyle Larson, I agree. He is starting to get better. We saw that toward the end of last year on the super speedways, and that was evidenced by a 3rd place start and 6th place finish at Daytona in the fall. But like I said at the beginning, I look at cars that can lead a lot of laps and cars that can make moves through the field. And that's not what he did in that race. He led 3 laps and started at the front and stayed at the front, which sometimes luck is on your side at the super speedway tracks, and that was definitely part of the case for Larson here last year until he's up there really dominating, leading laps, kind of like the Logano Blaney hookups at the front of the field for long stretches of time. Going to kind of discount him in terms of the odds of where he's at right now. And Kyle Busch is getting there because of Richard Childress Racing. We know they always put together really good super speedway cars, but they didn't last year. So something's got to change. He changed his crew chief this year. We'll see if that's able to help and be able to get Richard Childress Racing back into where they're used to being at places like Daytona but they definitely didn't have it last year. And I'm going to sit this one out this week. If it changes, great. Maybe we'll talk about him when we go to Atlanta, Talladega, and back to Daytona again. But after 34th and 33rd last year, without even starting, better than 14th in those two races, I've got a lot of concerns for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, if I was gonna, I would say this, that I might actually take Kyle out of these three, because I just can't take Denny right now. And I know look, Denny's clearly the better of the three on these types of tracks over his career. There's no competition. But it just goes against my philosophy to go with someone that not only has had a little bit of bad luck, but has had no good luck for years. And that's Denny Hamlin here. Plus getting a few extra points, and I definitely would take Kyle over Larson. I mean, Busch over Larson. I mean, that's not even a hard one for me. So yeah, also it's a Chevy. And again, I'm not even thinking about Larson. So it's Chevy over Toyota with Kyle over Hamlin. Again, I know you don't like any of these three, but if I was going to take one, I guess I'd take Kyle over the rest. But this is the thing. I mean, we know they could all win. And this is the type of race it always is. I mean, how many times we have to talk about it? I think the only reason where it's quieted down a little the last couple of years is because William Byron has a name and he's a championship type contender, but we've seen just way too many drivers winning the greatest race of all. That is just like a driver that probably doesn't even have another win, or he's got like one other win and he's only got wins on super speedways. It's just not a good look for the sport when the best of the best are not winning the best race in the world. But that's the way it is. And that's why it's also, I think, it makes a lot of handicapping sense to look at other options with better odds in a race like this. So
totally agree.
Okay, let's move on. Cindric, Elliott, Keselowski. And in this group, look, Cindric is with Penske and Logano and Blaney, so that's a big deal. And he's already got a win, the 2022 500. Look, this is one of these drivers I just talked about that won the Daytona 500. So, but he's been good here, and I think a lot of that does have to do with his partners. And he led 59 laps in this race last year, finished 8th. So he almost won a second 500. Elliott, meanwhile, I'm kind of surprised. I never would have thought 20 races in that Chase Elliott would have this much futility at this track. I just never thought that this would be an issue for him, but it has been. He just has not 3 top 5s in 20 races. I mean, is that worse than Kyle Larson? That's pretty bad. Yeah. So I'm just very surprised about that. And he's 16-1. Keselowski, meanwhile, we know how good he is at Talladega, or at least he used to be. He's only got one win in his career in 33 races at Daytona, and he's been DNF'd 11 of his last 18 races at Daytona, and that's just not good. Plus, it's just about 18-1. The odds are getting a little bit better now, but still, Cindric would be the easy pick here out of these three.
Yeah, definitely go with Cindric. He's got the Team Penske Ford. He's won here before. He went through his own kind of slumps on the super speedways, seemed to be getting it back, started 2nd and 5th last year. Didn't he win the other duel? Wasn't it he and Bubba Wallace, I think, that won the qualifying duels? If I'm not mistaken. It didn't really matter for him since he qualified on the front row to begin with anyway, which is kind of surprising to go out there and race all the way to the win on a qualifying race if you've already got a front row start, which if I'm wrong on that, somebody please correct me. So I think Cindric is the obvious choice. Elliott is surprising when you look back at his Daytona statistics, 3 pole positions though. So clearly Hendrick has had the 1 lap speed. Byron had that as well. 10th in the fall race last year from the 30th position, but in the last couple of races, he really hasn't been out leading a ton of laps. Only 15 total laps led in the last 2 seasons, last 4 races at Daytona. So kind of a front-esque type of top 10 guy. And if he can make his way through, maybe at the end, anything can happen. Keselowski, I don't know if it's being a team owner, getting a little bit older, seems to just be tailing off a little bit. It used to always be Keselowski and Logano, even when Keselowski left Penske, it was still Keselowski and Logano teaming up at the front of the field, and they were like a fixture at the front of all of these races. And we haven't seen it for at least a year with Keselowski up there. So he's another one where I'm kind of going to wait, maybe see how this Daytona 500 plays out for him, and then maybe pick him up again if he shows me something over the next super speedway races. But out of this bunch, clearly it's Cindric.
Yeah, and he did. He won one of the duels and started second last year.
There you go.
Yeah, Keselowski out of these three, look, he's got a little bit better odds, and he would be interesting, like you said, especially not just waiting after this race, but I'm willing to see how he does in qualifying, and I'm going to see, even for this race. So. Because 18-1, we're now starting to get to odds that are, they're all right. It's not bad. But again, it's a 1 win out of 33, but somebody that definitely could be a nice sleeper pick if he does well before the race.
Yeah, and I want to point out with the duels, I think you're absolutely right. In if you see something from Keselowski in the duels, go ahead and choose him. Don't look at the dual winners, though. The dual winners, I don't think a dual winner has won the Daytona 500 since like Matt Kenseth in 2012 or something. It's been over a decade since it's happened. It hasn't happened all that many times in all of history, let alone just in the past couple of decades. So don't take just the finishing order of those duels. Really look at who is able to make moves through the field and who's able to get out front and lead laps. If you're able to see Keselowski making moves, moving forward, teaming up with people, going out and potentially even leading laps, then definitely he becomes a much better bargain, hopefully, for Sunday's race. But again, just be careful when you look at the duels to actually look at what happens in those races, not just looking at the finishing order.
Yeah, and that's one of the criteria as well. With if you've never been involved in these fantasy contests, that's something that is very important that we'll get into. Is you get a lot more you get a lot more points if your driver actually doesn't qualify all that well, but he is able to go from say 30th to 10th and you move up 20 spots. You get a lot more points than if a driver starts 9th and ends up 8th. And It's just so that does come into play. We'll go more into that next week. But yeah, these are the little things that we're going to talk more about each week. So we'll let you know. We'll pinpoint specific drivers to keep an eye on for your fantasy contests every week, depending on where they qualify and who we think has really good chance of gobbling up additional points. All right, now we go to the next group, and this is actually a good group here, especially because the odds are a little bit better, and this includes 3 Toyotas. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Now we've got some Toyotas, but these are good Toyotas that at least the odds are better, and I'm willing to wager on 1 or 2 of them as long shots, especially Briscoe and Bell. Briscoe was 28-1 in the Coke race, and then he ended up, when it was all said and done, he didn't have actually a great race that particular week, but overall, now that you've had time to look at the year he had, which was much better, and his stats at Daytona are much better, his odds are where I think they should be. Because even though he only has 2 top 5s and 10 appearances, what you want to look at is he was 4th in this race last year from the pole. And more importantly, over the last 5 races at Daytona, he led 6 laps last year in the Coke race. He finished 4th again, as I said, from the 500 last year. Then he had a 14th, a 10th, and then he led 67 laps from the pole in a 2023 race, and before he wrecked, got involved in a crash. So that's a lot of laps. He's had a couple of the top 10s and a top 5. He has a win at Talladega last year. So this is now we're getting into some interesting drivers. Christopher Bell's another one. Christopher Bell, if you look at it, he crashed in last year's race. Before that, he had an average of 7.6 in 5 other previous races at Daytona, and that was with 3 third-place finishes. All right. And now last year he was 31st and 13th. But overall, that's 7.6. Really good if you throw out the wreck in last year's 500. He also had a good run at Daytona in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and he won Atlanta last year. So a couple of good, kind of long shot sleepers here at Toyota. And we know Bubba can race at super speedways. It's always been his deal. You're getting a nice number at 25-1. He's got 3 career runner-ups, including 2 in the Daytona 500. With Bubba, you just don't know. I mean, I don't know. Bubba to me is sort of like the way I don't trust even Kyle Larson now. Now Larson's is able to lead some laps now and it can get up to the front in super speedways. I still don't trust him to do the right thing and to make the right call in fractions of seconds that need to be made in these types of races. And I think that's always what's doomed Bubba. He just doesn't seem to make the right decisions. And that's why he finishes second so often instead of first in these types of races. But anyway, at least you're getting good numbers with all 3 of these Toyotas.
Yeah, it's really tough to choose between these 3 because I think they all have a great potential. And these are the 3 Toyotas definitely that I would throw into the hat and wouldn't have any qualms if I got stuck or had to choose any one of them. Briscoe, I think, is clearly the top just because of how strongly he came on. Remember, this race last year was his very first one with Gibbs. So this was his first time working with that team, first time driving a Toyota. So he had a lot and very steep learning curve, which he definitely came up as the year went on, and he still did really well in the track or in the race as well. So definitely don't discount that. I think Christopher Bell, his consistency over the time that he's been in the Cup Series has been fantastic at Daytona. Several top 5s, so 3 top 5s, third place, all of them third place finishes, and very rarely for Daytona or a super speedway, I should say, does he finish outside the top 15. So Christopher Bell, definitely very strong as well. Wallace definitely has the capability to win, and you're getting some better odds, more lucrative odds with him. I think out of the bunch, if you forced me to choose, I would choose Bell. Because I think you're getting that little bit of premium over Briscoe, and he's got an equally good chance. I think Briscoe is probably your most likely of these 3. But then even Wallace, I wouldn't be disappointed with to take an extra few points on him and still have somebody that could win the race.
Okay, let's now move on. And we have 3 25-1 shots. Matter of fact, I think Wallace, I think there were 5 because Wallace was one of them. The other one is Buescher. Okay, so we've got Buescher, Zilich, Chastain, and Preece, the remaining 25-1 shots. I mean, Preece, forget about it. He's been terrible with the next gen, no matter where he's been. He's got a 29.1 average in 6 next gen races. Not good at all. He was actually pretty good pre-next gen, but last year didn't show anything. And so, yeah, I'd like to see what Preece does maybe in this race. And if he does halfway decent, maybe we'll look at him in the summer, but not right now. Chastain also not good at all. 20.9 result average in 15 career races. He's only led 7 laps in his last 3. An average starting position is what's killing him too, even though it's Daytona. But that just shows you he doesn't have any speed early or late. 25.2 average starting position. So if he starts with that again, then you know what you got. If he all of a sudden's got a top 10 position, then maybe you want to take a second look his way. But I doubt it. And then you got Buescher, which is clearly the choice here out of these drivers. And this might even be one of the better long shots on the board. He's got 5 top 5s and a win in his career at Daytona. In his last 6 races at Daytona, he has an 8.3 average, including a win, no DNFs during that span. Last year, he was 10th and 7th. And of course, he's driving a Ford, which is a big help. And Connor Zilic, I know it's not 5-1 at a road course, and he's not Kyle Larson at 12-1. But to be honest with you, I looked at, look, I haven't been invested in his career down at the lower level. I understand how talented he is, but I haven't seen any sort of great history in his short history at super speedways. I just haven't seen that. He does have a win and at Daytona, which is great. He's got one win at 2. But he doesn't have any great history at Atlanta, Talladega. So in other words, it's asking a lot. And in his first Cup race, in his first as a full-time starter, as a rookie, to ask him to win, I think that's. I think I want a little bit more than 25-1. But hey, like I said, at least it's not 5-1. So again, out of that group, out of these 25-1 shots, I think the easy way to go is Buescher.
Buescher, hands down, no questions asked. He's the best of this bunch. 5 top 10s out of the last 6 Daytona races. Like you said, no last led, or really to speak of. 12, I think, in that span, which actually, no, I missed 32 when he finished 4th back in the Daytona 500 in 2023. So Buescher a while ago was out there leading laps. I think he just needs a partner this weekend. Hopefully Keselowski's up there with him, or maybe one of the Penskes can team up with him and he can time out front and leading laps. Zilic still too new. I want to wait and see. I think he's got a ton of potential, but we'll see how that goes. Ryan Preece, like I said, I think he's usually in the air instead of on the track here at Daytona. Unfortunately for him, a lot of crashes, quick and another Ford. And if things go their way, anybody can win this race. So why not Ryan Preece as well? But when you've got other options like Buescher out there at the same price, I would definitely go with Buescher.
So if someone asked you, okay, well, let's say they had to decide on which racetracks that would be the types of racetracks that you would want to wager on with Connor Zilic, which does he have a certain track style that he's best at?
Well, road courses for sure. He went head-to-head with SVG in the O'Reilly Series road course races last year, beat him on occasion as well. So definitely look at him for road course races. But I would say other places that drive like road courses, so more of the short tracks, 1 mile and under. And we'll see how he adapts to Cup equipment on the 1.5 and big 1.5 mile ovals and bigger tracks as the season goes along.
Yeah, he has, 11 wins, 5 on the road courses. And he also has wins at Portland, Pocono,
drives
Indiana.
Like,
what's that?
Portland is a road course. Pocono.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Pocono drives like a road course because you got 3 different turns.
Indianapolis,
kind of a road course track.
Gateway, Dover,
kind of like a road course.
Gateway, Dover, and Austin.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Those fall right perfectly in with my recommendation.
Shorter tracks. Okay. Yep. All right. Let's see. So let's keep moving on here. And we'll go with Bowman, Reddick, and Hocevar. And believe it or not, Alex Bowman does not have a win on any super speedways. He's 0 for 54. But there's a big difference between deciding on what to do with Bowman and Kyle Larson, and that is called odds. I would much rather have Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson because I'm getting 28-1. Plus, Bowman has an 11.8 average in his last 6 races at Daytona. He had an average of 7.0 before the August race. That didn't go too well for him. He crashed on lap 27. So that's pretty strong for someone that has never won. Matter of fact, he was a runner-up at the 2024 Daytona 500. So I think that Bowman is a nice long shot play. And then Reddick and Hocevar, it will be a hard pass. Reddick with the Toyota, even though he was a runner-up in this race last year, that was more of a fluke than anything because, and yes, he has 2 top 5s in his career at Daytona, but he's pretty much done nothing else. So it's like, again, this is like just luck of the draw. I'm second. It might as well be Cole Custer. It just doesn't matter. I don't see a big difference there. And then with Carson Hocevar, 28.8 average finish in 4 Cup races because he has 3 DNFs. He did finish 11th in the only race that he was able to finish. But this is not a surprise. Carson Hocevar is a very impatient driver, very aggressive driver, and that's going to get you in a lot of trouble on super speedways. So it may be a while before I even consider taking Carson Hocevar in one of these types of races. But I think out of these 3, Bowman's the clear choice.
Yeah, I agree. And before I go into Bowman, before I get yelled at, I should say, for talking about road courses with Connor Zilich and then throwing in Indianapolis and Pocono. Remember, I said drive like road courses. Those are relatively, or at least Indianapolis, relatively flat. You've got to do the hard braking into those turns. And one of the turns at Pocono is actually modeled after the turn at Indianapolis. So before you yell at me, I speak. But yeah, out of this group, Alex Bowman, hands down, excellent at Daytona, probably one of the best averages of a career in terms of finishing at this track without having a win yet. He does have 3 poles and a bunch of other front row starts. So he's got the speed. He can race well, finish inside the top 10, 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s. Led 11 laps in this race last year, despite starting 38th and finished 6th. And then he started on the front row in the Coke Zero 400 race later on in the year as well. So without a doubt, Alex Bowman. And then I agree with you on everything you said about Hocevar and Reddick. But out of this bunch, why not go with Bowman?
Okay, next up, we've got Ricky Stenhouse, Suarez, and Berry. And with Stenhouse, look, he has the 2 wins, 2023 500 and 2017. But it's one of those things where, and he's very similar to Carson Hocevar in a way, and maybe that's good news for Carson Hocevar because Stenhouse has got 9 career DNFs, 6 in his last 8, but thrown in is a 2023 Daytona 500 win. So he's very aggressive in this types of racing, and it gets him in trouble more often than not, but he's able to get a win every, or at least 2 career wins on this track. And so maybe that's what we'll see out of Carson Hocevar's career is possible. But so, yeah, I mean, it's a crapshoot. At least you're getting 30-1, and he's been able to pull off a couple of wins. Suarez was runner-up in August, which was a big prize considering he has DNF'd 64% of the time that he's raced at Daytona in 17 races. And then Josh Berry, who ended his season pretty strong last year. There's a lot to look at with Josh Berry as maybe a driver that could take that next step. He was 9th in August, the only time in 5 races at Daytona that he's had a top 10 finish. He's got a 23.8 career average there. So it's clearly Stenhouse out of this group. Yeah, I mean, with Stenhouse, it's not the worst idea in the world to throw a couple of bucks on him as a long shot.
Yeah, I think $1 on Stenhouse just because of his propensity to win here. Obviously, ultra aggressive, and a lot of times that gets him in trouble, though. But sometimes it pays off, and he gets the win. For me, I think I'd put Josh Berry at the top. It's Wood Brothers Racing. It's another Ford. They've got the close partnership with Team Penske, and Berry's shown that he could get it done exactly like you said toward the end of the season. Last year, he really stepped it up and had a better finish in the fall race than he did in the spring race for sure. I think the wild card and perhaps a dark horse could be Suarez. And the reason why is because he's moving to Spire Motorsports. And remember who used to always finish at the front at super speedways? Spire Motorsports drivers, and particularly Corey LaJoie, but pretty much all of them. And Suarez has gotten it done. He's won at Atlanta. So he has figured out super speedway racing. So I think maybe with Spire, maybe that gives him the chance to show a little bit more of what he's got at places like Daytona. So I think he's more of a wild card, though. Definitely watch to see what he does Thursday in the qualifying races. But out of these 3, I'd probably go with Josh Berry.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Let's move on to some more long shots. Let's see. Austin Dillon, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, Eric Jones. They're all at 45-1. And there's another 45-1 shot, and that is Justin Allgaier sitting there. You're pretty much more of a O'Reilly Auto Parts driver who's had a lot of success at Daytona. If you look at it, he has 9 top fives and a win in that series. So, and he's had a lot of bad luck and close calls in that series as well. I always like taking Allgaier in super speedways in that series because he's got good odds and he's always there. And so he's somebody that may not be a bad wild card. But out of this group, look, Austin Dillon, we know he has the 2 wins, and he's also got a 500 win. So, sort of like Stenhouse, he could be dangerous. Ty Gibbs hasn't really shown anything, even though he's been getting better at Daytona recently. Michael McDowell has a 2021 Daytona 500 win. Yes, another one of those types of drivers. But Eric Jones is the one that sticks out to me. He was 5th in August, led 10 laps. And in his last 5 appearances at Daytona, he has a 12.0 average, including a win, of course, before that at Daytona in 2018. So he would be the one in this group. But there's winners here and some interesting long shots here.
Yeah, exact same wavelength. Eric Jones was going to be the one that I pointed out. Fall race, he started 26th and finished 5th. He led 10 laps in that race. And you look back at his last 5 Daytona races, he hasn't finished outside of the top 18. So Eric Jones, definitely somebody that can step it up. But like you said, Austin Dillon probably falls in the same bucket as Kyle Busch. Wait to see what he's able to do Thursday. Any of these guys literally any driver could end up winning this race. But I think from a likelihood perspective, Eric Jones, when you're talking this far down the roster, is probably the best one to go with.
And then rounding out all the other long shots here, you see Zane Smith, Gilliland, SVG, Custer. The ones that really pop out to me is, it's clearly John Hunter. By the way, Austin Hill, speaking of O'Reilly Auto Parts races.
Master, can't wait to see him on super speedways when he's in a cup car every week. Last week. Coming off,
he's got a 23.0 average in 3 cup races coming into this year, but he's got 3 wins in 9 appearances at O'Reilly. So yeah, we know he can do it now, like you said, full time. So wouldn't be a bad idea for a $1 bet.
I agree. I want to see him behind the wheel every week in this machinery, and then we'll see what he can really do against these guys on the super speedways. I think he's going to be great.
Cody Ware, believe it or not, led 23 laps in August. Wound up finishing 20th. He's got a 14.3 average in his last 6 races at Daytona. So another surprise driver. And I'm assuming we may have to these are the types of drivers at these types of races that you have to maybe maneuver with in the contest. It'll give you an opportunity to throw in an extra good driver based on the what is it, like a salary every week that we deal with? Yeah,
$1,000 cap.
Yeah, but again, John Hunter Nemechek, he's the one that really sticks out at 65-1 in 6 cup races. He's got an 11.0 average, including finishing 5th in last year's Daytona 500. And this from a driver who only has a 23.3 starting average. So if he winds up really starting well inside the top 10 or something like that, then I'd be a lot more interested. But I think he's a definite play as a long shot.
Totally agree. A lot of experience, cup experience as well, and tends to rise to the occasion on the super speedways.
All right, let's get to picks and wrap this up. This is what we'll do to wrap up our reports each week. So, CJ, you will get us. You can decide if you would like to start or not.
I'll let you start. You can go.
Okay. I will. Well, look, last year, the last time we raced at this track, I picked Ryan Blaney to win, and he did. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with Ryan Blaney again. He's never won the Daytona 500.
I knew you were going to go Blaney. I will go Logano.
Okay, so we both got the 2 Penske drivers up there. Next up, I am going to go with, tell you what, I'm going to take I'm going to take a Toyota. I'm going to go a little bit of a oddball here and go with, I'm going to take Christopher Bell.
It was actually going to be my choice. But since you did that, I will go with Toyota as well, but I'll go with Briscoe.
Okay. And then the third choice, the long shot choice, still, you know, Busher still would qualify here. Maybe at 25-1 is pretty good. Bowman, Eric Jones, and John Hunter. That would be, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take John Hunter.
Oh, you made it hard for me. I'll go wild card. I'll go Daniel Suarez.
Oh, okay. That would be a big story with his new team.
My other choice would have been Busher, but I'll go a little bit deeper and go with Suarez.
Yeah, that was the deal with me too. Is I felt I think the viewers deserve a deeper long shot. We like Busher, you know that, so he's definitely a choice. But again, we're gonna talk more about the 500 next week. We also are going to talk about our championship playoff picks and all that. We'll go over the championship odds. We'll recap what happened at Bowman Gray on Wednesday and get into our fantasy contest. So a lot to cover on next week's show. That's why we wanted to get a head start here with the 500. So CJ, appreciate your time as always. And we'll have a link in the description of the video every week for your reports over at rotowire.com. And when are you going to have a report for the 500?
It will be after the duels. So I'll have one for the duels probably early next week. And then on Friday or Saturday, we'll put out one for the Daytona 500 as well. Rotowire.com and in the comments of this video.
Excellent. All right, CJ, appreciate your time as always. We'll talk again next week. Can't wait.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week. If you have any questions, comments, anything at all, especially about the fantasy contest, let us know. We'll see you next week.